Coming up on Trailblazer Weekly, the men's basketball team saw its 13-game win streak snapped last night in the opening round of the RMAC tournament. Did the Trailblazers do enough in the regular season to get an at-large bid to the NCAAs? We'll discuss later. We'll also chat with RMAC Co-Defensive Player of the Year, Julian Decree.
Plus, it's March, so you know what that means. And no, not basketball. It's time for spring football. The Trailblazers will officially open spring practice on March 19th, and we'll break down the spring football calendar and take a look at some of the few matchups coming up in the future for DSU football.
It's all coming up next right here on Trailblazer Weekly, so stick with us. It all starts right now.
Live from the CEC studio at Dixie State University, it's Trailblazer Weekly with Keric Seegmiller. And Drayson Ball. This is Trailblazer Weekly.
We are live inside the CEC TV studios on the Community Education Channel and the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page with another exciting edition of Trailblazer Weekly. We are not on radio today. All of our Radio Dixie 91.3 FM studios are up in northern Utah, touring facilities at BYU and I think a few other schools up north, and kind of a field trip of sorts for those radio students. So we'll give them the day off. But as always, I'm Keric Seegmiller, and joining me is my co-host and broadcast partner, Drayson Ball.
Keric, I thought we talked about this a few weeks ago. It was supposed to be no more rain in the forecast for St. George, but we got a downpour of rain today. And I'm not loving living in St. George right now with all this rain. That's why I didn't sign up for this.
I walked out the door today and thought I was in Seattle or in Washington State somewhere where it just constantly rains. And you just never know. You just know to buy an umbrella, buy a raincoat, because you're probably going to need it this spring.
Good thing is it didn't affect, at least not yet, affect any of the outdoor sports we have coming up in the forecast. No pun intended for this weekend.
Yeah, certainly. No, actually, one of the rare weekends off here at home. There are no home events this weekend for Dixie State, and so you don't have to worry about the rain that way. There could be some rain in Alamosa where the baseball is going to play out of state. I don't know about in Pueblo where softball is going to play. Like you said, not any interruptions or postponements that we know of, but we'll keep a close eye on that and let everybody know if there are. But yeah, I had to walk up in the rain, so got all wet. Walk from the Burns Arena offices up to the Jennings building here, and it's raining again outside, everybody. So, but let's jump into our weekend headlines here on Trailblazer Weekly, and we'll start with men's basketball. The Trailblazers hosted its first home conference tournament game against New Mexico Highlands last night on Tuesday, and unfortunately suffered an 86-82 loss to New Mexico Highlands. Drayson, let's break it down. Mike and I talked to the broadcast last night. We talked with Coach Judkins. You were there. You were hanging around and got to hear kind of what Coach Judkins said. And so let's break this down. In fact, we have Coach Judkins' comments with Kylie Young, the third member of our broadcast crew, on the sidelines, and great sidelines reports that she gives. She caught Coach Judkins right as he was coming off the floor. So we're going to hear that a little bit later in this segment as well, see what he had to say kind of right after the fact. But let's break this down. The Trailblazers, they started the game against Mexico Highlands, and it was eerily similar to the game in December here. That game started with a 12-5 lead for Dixie State, or for New Mexico Highlands. Trailblazers went on a run, took the lead, and then they were good to go from there. Last night, Mexico Highlands jumps out to an 11-5 lead. Dixie State makes a run, takes a 17-12 lead, and you thought, okay, here we go. They've turned the corner. The same thing's going to play out. Fortunately, that was not what played out. Mexico Highlands made another run, and the Trailblazers were playing catch-up from then on and just never could quite get all the way over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a game of runs last night. I mean, you talk about that a lot with basketball, but yesterday was truly indicative of that kind of cliche saying. The Trailblazers, like you mentioned, were leading 17-5, and then I think they went on a 20-3 run, and maybe even a 22-5 extended run there towards the end of the first half, and it was really just one of those cases where I think Dixie may have just lost a little bit of focus, especially going into halftime against a team that you're on paper you're supposed to beat. Now, obviously, Highlands played much better than the Trailblazers I think anticipated, but like you mentioned, just in the second half, they were just never able to get over that hump. They got it down to 3 a few times. Then almost at a blink of an eye, you turned around and the Cowboys were back up by 10 or 12 or something like that. So I kind of just kept thinking, man, if they could get it, tied. I think the crowd was really into it, and the crowd was waiting for them to kind of get back into a situation where okay, you can now win this game, and that just never came. And I think that's kind of obviously was the biggest detriment, not being able to get back to that point where the crowd was really into it, knowing we've got a chance to win this ball game. Looking at it from another angle, credit where credit is due. You got to give some credit to Raekwon Mitchell. He was just flat out tremendous. 25 points, 8 of 14 from the field. Got to the free throw line 13 times. A lot of those free throws were late in the game, scoring with no time coming off the clock. He chipped in 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a couple of steals as well. I mean, he was absolutely tremendous, and he was really the anchor to that offense late in that game, and he was the one with the ball in his hands every time on the floor, and he either scored or found a way to get to the free throw line. He was very, very tough to defend last night.
Well, and let's not forget, like you said, give credit where credit is due. New Mexico Highlands was a talented team, and we all knew that going in. Last week when the Trailblazers beat Westminster at home on senior night, and then we were all kind of waiting around to see who the opponent would be. As soon as we found out it was New Mexico Highlands, everyone kind of went, okay, we feel like maybe we matched up a little bit better with Colorado Mesa or Black Hills State again. But New Mexico Highlands is just that team that's dangerous. You don't know what team's going to show up, but they have the capability to beat anybody in the conference and a lot of teams in the country and any given night at the Division II level because they're athletic, they're long, they shoot the ball well, they have the bigs inside. Okoro, 6'8", 6'9", they got a 7-footer that comes in and gives him breathers. But they came in with a game plan and they executed that game plan perfectly. Flustered Dixie State early with the press. Coach Judkins was screaming at his players to say, put your head down and go, just dribble. But some of the guys kept trying to throw cross-court passes, and that's what New Mexico Highlands wants you to do because, like I said, they're athletic, they're long, they can jump out of the gym, and that plays into what they want to do. And that's Dixie State played into that early and trailed 41-29 at the half, and then like you mentioned in the second half, every time Dixie State got close, it was Mitchell. He came down, and Dixie State got it down to 3. And I watched this. He's a redshirt junior, so basically he's like a senior. He's been around basketball. He redshirted a year, so this could be a senior year without that redshirt year. But I watched Raekwon Mitchell go down and take the ball into his hands and say, "I'm the team leader." And there was 4 or 5 possessions where he didn't pass the ball. He brought the ball across the timeline. He set up on the left wing, and he dribbled. And he dribbled. He looked at the shot clock, waited until it was under 10, and decided, okay, now's my time to make a move. I'm either going to get to the basket and score, or they're going to foul me. We're in a one-on-one situation or a double bonus, and I'm going to get free throws. And that's exactly what he did. And that's what stopped the Dixie State run in the second half. Wade Miller got hot, got it down to 3 or 4 again, but Dixie State just could not get over that hump. And, it was unfortunate in a tournament format to have that happen, and Coach Judkins kind of felt that same way. And Kylie Young, the 3rd member of our broadcast crew, had the opportunity to catch up with Coach Judkins just as he was leaving the floor. Let's show you and let you listen to Coach Judkins' comments with Kylie right after the loss and see what he thought. So we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but let's see what Coach Judkins thought about this game, and I think he's going to agree with a lot of things we're saying.
Coach, you guys went down by as many as 17 points, but your guys came back, fought to the final seconds. Talk about the grit of this team.
Oh, I love them. We got it down, I think, to 2 or 3 or something. I thought, okay, here we go, and we just could never get over the hump. And then we did some really dumb things. We played great defense, and then all of a sudden we fouled with 5 seconds on the shot clock. Just things like that you can't do in these kind of games. But give them credit. They're a good team. They're athletic. We had a hard time guarding them. They shot the heck out of the ball. We had some guys tonight just didn't show up to play tonight. And it's sad to say that in a tournament. How can you not come ready to play? But again, I love how hard we played and how we fought. We didn't quit. And Bubba hit some big shots to get us back in the game. But, these kind of games you can't have. You got to play the best game of your life, and you can't just think you're going to win it at the end. And I thought we kind of did that tonight.
Julian ends his last time in a Trailblazer uniform, career high tonight for him, a double-double. Just talk about what he did to kind of keep this team going tonight and what he's done for the season. Well,
we hope it's not our last game with Trailblazers, because if we're, again, this is going to hurt, but we hope that we can still finish 8th in the poll and still get a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. It's a long shot, but there's still a chance. But you know, the way he improved throughout his 2 years here is amazing what he's done. He had a great game tonight. Like I said, I wasn't mad at him. There's a couple other guys that just didn't show up tonight.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
So once again, that was Kylie Young, the third member of our broadcast crew this season, which she did a fantastic job this season. Hope we can get her back next year as well, all the insight she brought in. But you heard Coach Judkins say it, and you know, it's unfortunate that he felt like he had a guy. He didn't name any names. He's not that kind of a coach, but he felt like there was a couple of guys that maybe just didn't come to play. They weren't ready mentally. They weren't focused. And that's unfortunate for that to happen in a tournament situation. Should mention, too, Zach Frampton, kind of one of the lifebloods of this team. He energizes this team with diving on the floor, getting steals. He's one of their best defenders. He left with an injury, not too long into the game as well, wasn't able to return. So you're missing one of your key cogs as well. But still, probably a game that you work your tail off all season to get a home game in the RMAC tournament. Probably could have and should have won this game. And
especially against a talented team like New Mexico Highlands, like you mentioned. I mean, going back to Raekwon Mitchell, when you have a guy like that that's so dynamic, that can get to the basket whenever he wants to, you couple that with a team that was red hot from three last night. They made 12 threes, 41% from beyond the arc. Obviously, when you have Raekwon Mitchell, who you really got to kind of focus on and collapse the defense when he gets into the lane. And when you collapse like that, obviously it frees up the three-point shooters on the perimeter, and that's really where the Trailblazers were burned last night. So they will await now, a very tough one. They'll await now on Sunday to see if they hear their name called for the big dance.
Waiting game.
It's going to be tough.
The toughest spot to be in. Should mention, just saw the rankings, and the Trailblazers have slipped down to the 9th spot. Newman, out of the Heartland Conference, jumped from 10 to 8. Dixie State is now the 9, and that's going to be tough to make that up. But Newman has to play their first round game in the Heartland Tournament tomorrow. They lose, you just don't know. There's still a slight chance, so you still have to play that waiting game. You still have to practice. You still have to be ready to go if your name is called on Sunday.
Always a chance. Make sure keep in touch with the Dixie State Athletics social media pages to make sure if you get the notification to see if they get into the tournament. But we'll stay on the basketball court as the Trailblazers women's basketball team battled in an in-state rivalry game against Westminster on Friday. And it was senior night, and it was a very tremendous game, a 63-60 win for the women's basketball team over the in-state rival Westminster College. It was one of those games where, there's really nothing to play for as far as postseason play is concerned, but certainly a lot to play for as an in-state rivalry game, as a senior night game, and a lot of different storylines, obviously, to give you some motivation. But a very, very good game and a wonderful way to go out for this women's basketball team. We've had a tremendous season, and they capped it off with a good win on Friday.
Absolutely. This women's basketball team really was a couple of wins away from being in the RMAC tournament themselves. A couple of games that they had, late in the second half and just let them slip away, and they know that. They didn't need to be told that. But it's been fun to see the growth of this team, that you go from a team 2 seasons ago when J.D. Gusson took over as head coach, and this team won less than 5 games. I think they finished with 3 wins. Last year they win 12 or 13 games. This year they win 15. They go 15-11, 11-11 in the RMAC. So they're a couple of, not first, but first time in a long time things. First time the Trailblazers have had a winning record overall since the 2012-2013 season. We mentioned that last week. And then with the win, it's the first time the Trailblazers have finished at 500 or better in conference play since 2013-2014. So this team is taking tremendous steps. And this game was a hard-fought in-state game. You knew right from the start that it wasn't, no one was going to pull away. Dixie State built an 8-point lead in the second quarter. Westminster answered. That was their largest lead of the game. The largest lead of the game for the Griffins was 6 points. Neither team led by more than 8 points. I mean, you want to talk about a game that was just neck and neck, back and forth, teams trading runs. This was the game, and it went down to the wire. The Trailblazers held on for the win.
And that being said, it was a very close game within 3 or 4 points the entire game, but I felt like, at least from my perspective, the Trailblazers controlled that game. It never felt like to me that they were out of control or that they didn't have a chance to win that game. Certainly they played well throughout. And what stuck out most to me is their offensive execution. I think after halftime, and give credit to Coach Gustin, maybe noticing something from the first half or maybe something that he had in his scouting report. In the second half, they went to normally it was a Mariah Martine, Cameron Mooney pick and roll that got a lot of layups there and opened up a few more things there in the second half that really, I think, leveled the playing field as far as, being able to execute offensively. That's really what stood out to me is what sparked that Trailblazers win. I mentioned Cameron Mooney. She was really one of the players of the game. We talked about it on the broadcast alongside London Pavlica, who was just tremendous off the bench. Between the two of them, Pavlica and Mooney, 21 points off the bench, 13 rebounds. I mean, they were just really a good spark, and we talked about it again on the broadcast. How fitting on senior night that a couple of freshmen come in and provide the big sparks to get that win.
I might say almost ironic would be a better word, because you look for your seniors to come out, and Lisa Van Kampen, I think, had 3 points, but without those 3 points in a 63-60 win, you don't win the ball game. And she actually made the free throw that extended it to a 3-point game, and at least made it to where you're going to no worse than overtime. And Cicely Williams that almost hit that shot, that buzzer beater from half court that I thought we were headed to overtime. It was on target, but really impressed with London Pavlica, and we've seen that through the year already, but also Cameron Mooney, just to see what she's done over the last 4 or 5, 6 games of this season has been incredible. And you're seeing what Coach Gustin, Coach Yazzie, Coach Bennett, what all of these coaches have been so excited about in bringing her down from Salt Lake City and from Skyline High School. This is the Cameron Mooney that they said by the end of the season, she was aggressive. She was boxing out hard. She's getting rebounds, just things that she wasn't quite doing at the start of the year. And now you've got 3 more seasons to work with that. By the time she's a senior, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I even think next year, I think the last 5, 6 games of this year is really going to carry confidence over to next year, and you're going to see someone on another level next year. Should mention Lisa Van Kampen, Allie Franks, Mariah Martine received RMAC honorable mention honors. First time Dixie State's even been mentioned in the conference postseason honors since Taylor Mann was named first team All-Pac West in the 2015-2016 season. So it's been a little while. So congratulations to them. I guess I forgot to mention also Matt Conway, first teamer on the men's side. Jack Pagankoff and Julian Decree were both honorable mention. And then Julian Decree, obviously we mentioned, the co-defensive player of the year. So congratulations to all of our all-conference honorees for basketball.
Great season, whether it's over for the men or not. It is over for the women, but great season nonetheless. Hopefully we hear our name called on Selection Sunday. Hoping to hear that. We got to take our first break here inside the CEC TV studios. When we come back, we are joined by men's basketball senior forward/center combo, Julian Decree. He's always a good interview, so you're not going to want to miss this one. Back with that right after this.
Do you think people like John McCain and other people would just sit there quietly on the sides, and that many Republican activists would refrain from registering their disapproval in the peanut gallery?
Some might argue that Republican activist is an oxymoron.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of activism.
Right.
But do you see what I'm saying? If you just flip it right over on its head.
I would like to flip it on its head, and in fact I'm already doing that because my own position is free speech is free speech. Okay, and I'm kind of advocating for something that I'm really not supporting in this respect, as far as protesting or not protesting and being able to recognize your audience. What we need on either side, I don't care where you're coming from, is the ability to recognize the audience.
Trailblazer Weekly is presented by the Dixie State Campus Store, the official store for Trailblazer and Dixie State clothing, as well as cheap textbooks, discounted computers, and supplies for students. They're located in the second floor of the Gardner Center and are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. Closed on Saturdays and Sundays? You can stop by any time because they'll be loaded with great Trailblazer swag all the time.
The basketball team is playing the waiting game to see if its name will appear on Selection Sunday. In the meantime, senior forward Julian Decree joins us on Trailblazer Weekly to help discuss this season. Julian, obviously a tough loss last night. We'll get to that in just a minute, but we wanted to start with a little bit of hardware you won last night. You were at least named co-defensive player of the year in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, along with a few other honors that your teammates got as well. Let's start with you. Talk about what it means to be named the co-defensive player of the year in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference.
It feels good. It shows the hard work that we put in through this year, the focus that we've had, and just the positions I've been put in just to make plays on the defensive end, and kind of prevailed at the end of the season. You've really been kind of the defensive anchor for the team all season. You put a lot of pride defensively, but you've also had a very good year offensively. You've certainly grown and developed as a player offensively. What have you learned, or maybe what have you kind of felt like you've added to your game throughout the season, both defensively and offensively? So offensively, just the finesse game. I had to add that. I couldn't always be a bully because at the beginning of the year I was getting a lot of offensive calls. So I kind of had to tweak that a little bit, and then defensively, just having more fun. Blocking shots. Just targeting people, knowing that I can send it into the crowd. Just being energized, and I'm having a lot more fun. Doing that.
Chatted with Julian Decree here on Trailblazer Weekly, senior forward center combo for men's basketball team. We'll talk about the whole season here in general last night, but obviously it's fresh in everybody's minds. Quarterfinal loss last night to New Mexico Highlands. Now you have to play the waiting game. What was the mindset and kind of the mood in the locker room after the game? Obviously, guys probably upset. Coach is probably a little upset, just trying to go through and figure out what didn't work, what happened, and now you have to play the waiting game. So how does that all shake out, and how's everybody feeling right now?
We're crushed, because that's not the way we want to end the season if it is ended in the end. But he kind of just told us that, at the beginning we should have controlled what we could have controlled, and now we can't control our destiny. So that's pretty much what we have to go with for the end of the season. I mean, some of us came out and played a tough-fought game, and we had fun, and we just know that we can't wait to the end if we do get another chance. So we just have to come out and punch them in the mouth first, and just hope God is on our side for this one.
Of course, individually, you had a great game last night. Career high. Of course, I'm sure you would probably trade that any day for the win and to still be playing this weekend. But career high in your last, Colorado School of Mines won anyway, so it would have been your last home game as a Trailblazer. So what did that mean to leave the Burns Arena with career high 20 points, 11 rebounds, double-double, doing everything that you need to do offensively to try to help your team? What does that mean to you as a player to end it that way?
It felt good. I felt like I put it all on the floor. I came out and did everything I wanted to do, just have fun and, be there for my teammates offensively and defensively. And, at the end of the day, I wish we would have got the dub, but, I put it all on the floor, and I'm glad I got to do it in front of the home crowd.
What is it like? Obviously now, you're kind of sitting on that bubble, as we hear a lot around this time in March, before we get into the March Madness part of it, the big bracket, and you're sitting kind of on the bubble. What's it like not knowing whether or not you'll be able to play another game? Because, you're a senior. You have no idea at this point whether your season's over and whether your career's, at least at Dixie State, your career's over. What's it like waiting, and what's it like, hopefully on Sunday, to hear your name? Because obviously you've been a part of that in the past.
That's tough, because, at the end of the day, we just don't know. I don't know if my season ended yesterday. I don't know if it'll be, rebooted back on Sunday, but all we can do is sit here and wait. And, of course, I'll be happy to have another opportunity to go out and show what we're really about, because, coming out yesterday, being down 17 at one point wasn't us. That was us at the beginning, but, taking that, we get another shot, it'll be great, for sure.
Talk a little bit about kind of how you've evolved, as a player throughout your time here at Dixie State. How else have you grown as a person, as a player, as a teammate, maybe as a mentor to the younger players? How else have you grown, and what have you kind of learned throughout your time here at Dixie State as a player and all those things I just mentioned?
Just being relatable, because I feel like last year I was more of a new guy, kind of had to learn the ropes. This year I was, I know they kind of quote me as a veteran. And showing the ropes. So a sign of maturity for sure, because last year I thought, I can do anything. I can shoot, I can do this, I can do that. But this year I kind of learned where my spots were, took advantage of those, and then learned how to stay poised and, kind of matured all around the 2 years I've been here. So I guess that's pretty much, yeah.
Of course, went through some adversity last year, an injury at the end of the season, had to kind of sit by and watch while your teammates won the conference regular season title, the conference tournament, and then watch where in a game where you probably really felt like you could have contributed in the game against Azusa Pacific in the regional opening round. Sit and watch that. You worked hard over the offseason, get back into shape, overcome that, had a fantastic season this year. What was your mindset coming into this year to make sure that you put that adversity in the past, you worked through it, and then did everything you could to help the team this year?
I just had a chip on my shoulder. Personally, I thought I kind of affected the regular season. But, the conference tournament, I feel like I had no part in it, and I really wanted to have a part. So, I worked my butt off this off season, trying to get healthy, trying to come back, trying to be a leader, trying to replicate what happened last season, this season. And I feel like I got something to prove, not only to my teammates last year, but to my teammates this year. And I tried my best to do what we needed to do.
Of course, let's recap the season just a little bit.
Okay.
January, what was it, 12th, 13th, January 14th, I think, lose to Chadron State. You're 5-8 at that time. And everyone's going, man, what's going on? We haven't seen it start like this for a while. And then in typical Dixie State Coach Judkins fashion, you rip off 13 straight wins and you get to 18-8. What was different, at least that you saw as a player, from a player's perspective? Because we've asked Coach Judkins and we've asked some other guys. What was your perspective as a player? What did you feel like was different over that 13-game win streak than the first 13 games of the season when you were 5-8?
Yeah, well, the first 5-8, we thought, well, dang, are we going to get into the tournament? What do we need to do? After every loss, we came into the locker room trying to figure out, what was the best way to tweak certain things. But, we switched some things up. We switched the starting lineup up. We switched up our focus. We switched up our approach. And, we took it one game at a time. We kind of actually implemented all the stuff that we focused on, and, we ripped off 13. We should have ripped off 14, but 13 was the outcome of just our focus and the transition from us, hoping to wanting it.
Chatting with senior forward/center Julian DeCree here on Trailblazer Weekly. Let's talk a little bit more about last night. I wanted to get your thoughts. Credit where credit is due. Raekwon Mitchell was absolutely tremendous tonight. 25 points, 8 of 14 from the field. Got to the free throw line 13 times. Contributed 5 rebounds, 5 assists, had a couple steals as well. I mean, he was all over the court last night. What's it like playing against someone who, if you asked him, he would just probably tell you he was in the zone or he was feeling it. What's it like playing against a guy where the ball's going to be in his hands every time down the court, and you got to find a way to stop him?
It's tough because hats off to him. He came out and did exactly what the scouting report said he was going to do. He was going to do his one-on-one thing. He was going to do his isolation thing, and came down to the last couple seconds we were making our run, and he put the ball in his hands, and he did what, Raekwon Mitchell does, is ISO and get to the bucket. He made some pretty smart decisions, but mentally I thought that, we got to stop this guy. Like, this guy's going crazy, and we just didn't have an answer for what he was doing.
One thing about last night's game that I thought, coming out of halftime, one thing that I've noticed about Coach Judkins is he's always a good coach at halftime to go in and make adjustments. You guys, about midway through the first half, led 17-12, and then I think there was a 20-3 or maybe even a 22-5 run for Highlands to end the half, and ended up leading by about 12 at the halftime break. What adjustments did Coach Judkins do at halftime? Because obviously you guys made a couple of runs, got it within 3 a couple of times, and just couldn't get over the hump. First of all, 2 questions. What kind of adjustments did he make in halftime? And second of all, what's it like been playing for Coach Judkins throughout your career?
So the first one was the adjustment that he made was that we need to stop being scared. They thought that the press was speeding us up and frightening us, which that wasn't the case. I mean, it may seem like it, but it wasn't. We were just trying to make the best play, and we just couldn't get sped up. So he told us to, stick to our game, get the ball in the post. If we don't have it in the post, kick it back out, and just play unselfishly and play together. Because he kind of thought we were trying to take over, trying to be heroes, trying to play hero ball. And, I mean, it seemed like the case, but we weren't trying to do that. So we kind of brought that to our attention and came out at halftime and kind of switched it up. But, playing for Coach Judkins has been fun. He has like a great grasp on the game. He tells you things like it is and not just what you want to hear. and he'll bring you down to size for sure, because he's been doing that to me all the past 2 years. So it's been fun, though. Great guy, off the court and on the court. Gets down to business, straight to business. And, it's all fun and games till Juddy comes in and takes off his jacket at halftime unless you know what you're doing. And so it's been fun, though, for sure. It's been a great 2 years.
I tell you, we've watched some of those second half runs over the season, and we've wondered whether you've got a bottle of Michael's secret stuff in there, from Space Jam or whatever, because you always seem to play well. The team doesn't in the second half, and we talk about Coach Judkins and just how fun he is to be around. I know a lot of guys when they leave this program, they have things that they've had pounded into their heads over the last few years, and they come away with a Juddyism, or what are your favorite things that he repeats, what he says all the time. Do you have a favorite, Juddyism, one that maybe he always was pounded into your head or the team's head, and just funny things that he would say from time to time?
Oh, most definitely. So he thinks that, we come on a road trip or anything, we come out, and if we're walking kind of slow, he thinks that we need to start running, immediately start practicing running. Or if we're breathing a different way, or we're unlacing our shoes a different way. Oh, your shoes are untied. Guess we got to start running. Got to get you focused. So that's pretty much Juddy's philosophy, is running cures everything. And, running ain't my thing, so.
I remember some of those trips. You go on a bus ride down to Southern California and hop off, and the first drill you do at practice was the 3-minute drill. Where you're
3 minute shooting.
3-minute shooting. Running up and down the court. So it's been a fun 2 years for you here at Dixie State. It's been fun for us to watch and to really follow as you've grown and really contributed to this team. So first of all, thank you for everything you've brought to Dixie State.
Appreciate it.
What's your favorite part? What's been your favorite part about playing, not just for Coach Judkins, but for playing here at Dixie State? And maybe it's the relationships that you've made. Maybe it's playing in the Burns. What's been your favorite part about playing at Dixie State?
Definitely the relationships, not only with the teammates, not only with you guys, the coach staff, but just the community overall. It's been good. People acknowledge you everywhere you go. People support you. They're fun. It's I guess the fan base is also great too. So it's everybody's just been one here and so supportive and appreciative, and wouldn't have traded the last 2 years for the world.
We're chatting with men's basketball senior forward/center Julian Decree here on Trailblazer Weekly. RMAC Co-Defensive Player of the Year. I want to wish you another congratulations on that award, a tremendous effort and a well-deserved award. Running a little short on time here. I wanted to jump in. We always do this with every one of our guests we have on. We want to get you a couple rapid-fire questions, nothing too serious. But let's start off with favorite. Who's your favorite NBA player, either current or past?
Oh, Kobe. Kobe, greatest of all time, for sure.
Kobe's a great one. Always a good one. I'm always going to be mad that he scored 60 points on my Jazz in his final game of the year.
Kobe hates the Jazz
of his career. So
he lit it up one line.
He was absolutely tremendous. Favorite basketball venue that you've either played in, as a player, obviously, or that you've watched a game in. Some whatever venue, Staples Center, maybe whatever it is. What is your favorite?
Oh, Burns Arena for sure.
Nice. Good answer.
Always got to play to the home crowd.
Favorite basketball movie?
Oh, Coach Carter.
Coach Carter?
Yeah.
That's a good one. How about a little would you rather?
Okay.
Would you rather? This is probably, I always got to think hard on these. I don't want to make them too easy. But would you rather, block or dunk?
I'm going for the blocks. I got to get the blocks.
I was surprised. I thought you were going to say dunk.
No, I got to get the blocks. I like getting them on top of the square, too. Yep.
I think we're good.
That it? We got rapid fire questions already? All right. Well, Julian, we appreciate you stopping by and taking time out of your schedule. We'll be on the edge of our seats waiting with you the rest of the week, waiting to see if our name is called on Sunday when they release the bracket, and we hope that it is. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything. We hope that it is, because we know this team is built to, last night was not indicative of who this team is. We know that. And, we hope that we can get in, because we know that if you can get in, make some noise.
No, we will.
In the South Central Regional. So, best of luck. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We got to take a timeout on Trailblazer Weekly. When we come back, football. Yes, it's time to talk some football. The Trailblazers released their spring football schedule yesterday. We'll break that down, take a look at when each of their practices were going to be. We'll also take a look at some of the games they've scheduled for the upcoming years. This is Trailblazer Weekly. Stick with us. There's more after this.
For over a century, Dixie State University has been shaping the Trailblazers of tomorrow by providing a culture of active learning, active life. With a paradigm of real-world experience mixed with cutting-edge technologies and rich traditions, we provide one of the most affordable educations in the West, set against the most stunning backdrop on the planet.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun, it's gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Hey guys, how are you today?
Good.
I'm here to talk about how with technology you can make amazing worlds. Come with me. My team and I groomed the Halo world to life.
Is that you?
That is me. I wasn't a math genius and I knew nothing about coding. But you guys do. You guys have the power to change things.
I want your job.
I want you to have my job.
Where do you find the titans of classical music in St. George? Classical music on Radio St. George, 100.3 FM. Where do you find the legends of jazz? Evenings on Radio St. George, 100.3 FM.
Trailblazer Weekly is the official show of Dixie State Athletics. You can keep up with all the Trailblazer athletic action with pictures, stats, and game recaps at DixieStateAthletics.com. While you're at it, don't forget you can follow our show on Twitter as well with @DSUBlazerWeekly.
Welcome back inside the CEC TV studios. Trailblazer Weekly marches on this fine Wednesday afternoon. I guess it's not super fine. It's raining outside, but hey, Drayson, have you heard the news?
What news?
Well, it's March, and we're about to spend an entire segment talking about football.
Great.
Not the upcoming big basketball tournament that happens.
Oh, is there a basketball tournament in March?
Yeah, it's kind of madness. And It's March, but we're talking about football.
Great.
So that's the news.
Looking forward to it.
The news is that the Trailblazers yesterday, the football team, released their spring practice schedule. And it's up online, and practices are going to be open to the public. And you see it on your screen for you TV and internet viewers. 13 practice sessions with the spring game on April 13th. So exciting times. That's next week is spring break. The week after, Dixie State football will be opening their spring practice schedule. Tuesday, March 19th will be the first schedule. Like I said, it is open to the public. They'll practice at Trailblazer Stadium from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Saturdays, it'll be 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then the spring game will be at 1 p.m. on Saturday, April 13th. We're going to have Coach Peterson. He had some stuff going on today. So we're going to do next week's spring break, no show. We'll have Coach on the show 2 weeks from today on Wednesday, March 20th. And he'll help us break down kind of the first day of spring ball. Of course, we'll be there and getting some highlights and some things for the show and just for our Dixie Athletics social media as well. But it's certainly an exciting time. I, for one, am just anxious to see the new staff. It's always interesting when a new staff comes in, you wonder, how does this coach run practice? How do things going to function? You get used to how everything runs with one coaching staff, and then there's going to be, it'll be similar, but there'll be things that are different. Certain coaches have certain tendencies and things that they like, done a certain way, and so it will be very interesting to see how a practice is run and how this team comes together. It'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks as spring practice opens and maybe a spring roster is available and see who's playing quarterback, who's at running back, who are the guys that are back at receiver, who we have back defensively, That's always, there's been a few people that have left with the coaching staff change, but a very solid core still coming back. And it'll just be, I'm excited for this spring practice session, probably more so than I've been about spring football. I always am. I'm not one of those guys that just sits around waiting for spring football to start. But this year, I am really excited, really anxious to see this spring football session and see how the new coaching staff fits and how this team looks in the spring, getting ready to go into important summertime, and then before you know it, it'll be fall camp again, and it'll be football time again.
Yeah, and why not be excited for spring football, especially after the tremendous season the Trailblazers had just a few months ago. And like you mentioned, I'm really excited to see all those things as well. Plus, obviously there's a huge storyline going into the offseason and spring football, which is the new coach in Paul Peterson, like you talked about. He's a tremendous coach. He had a great coaching career at Snow College. He's really an offensive guru, for lack of a better term. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he'll be able to do with this very talented Dixie State football team, not only in the spring, but then going into the fall and into next season. You talk about a lot of the guys that he brought over from Snow College. I think that's going to help a little bit of the transition between coaching staffs, because some of the players that have bought into Paul Peterson's system from Snow College are going to be able to help accommodate and help those guys that are here at Dixie State kind of get into the system and really buy into Paul Peterson's program. I'm looking forward to that aspect of it, and honestly just to see what he can do with this team that's going in an upward direction after a good season last year.
Absolutely, and there's always going to be, when there's a coaching staff change, like there was just over the last few months, there's always going to be a little bit of a vetting process. He came in his first meeting with his team, he came in and he told them all how it was going to be. And, we'd love to have you here, but if it's not for you, that's fine. And there were some that left, and that's fine. That's to be expected. That's you get recruited by a coach, it's your option to go and to play where you feel comfortable playing. But like you said, you've got some guys coming in from Snow College, and to this point, I think everybody that's still here has been meeting with Coach Peterson and has been able to see, he's a great football mind. He knows his stuff. He's a great guy, a great coach, and so you're going to see a lot of them still coming back to play. And like I said, as spring ball actually gets officially open, we'll be able to talk more about certain players as we see who is at quarterback. We'll have Coach in here 2 weeks from now and say, okay, I know you only have one practice under your belt, but, talk to us about the quarterback position. Talk to us about, running back. Talk to us about the receivers. And it will be something that we'll be able to discuss a little bit more in the future. But the guys that are going to be here, I think you're going to see already a bond and chemistry going right into spring ball. And just exciting time to see Coach Peterson at the helm in spring ball and to see what all these guys that he has, because the people and the coaches on his staff have either played in the NFL or been on a staff in the NFL or have family ties in coaching staffs in the NFL and played or been part of teams at the highest levels, and they know their stuff. And I'm excited to see how they coach their individual positions. So it will be fun. Like you said, Coach Peterson's a guy that knows his stuff. We played quarterback at Boston College. And quick trivia, do you know who Paul Peterson's college teammate was? And maybe we've been over this before, and I just haven't.
I think we have been over this, but I want to say
it was his backup. It was Paul Peterson's backup.
I want to say
at Boston College.
I don't know. I think this is right. I want to say Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. So an NFL quarterback. He told us the story that, in fact, when he was here for his interview, we all went out to lunch just to kind of get to know him, and he told us that story, that he was having a great year. It was 2005 or 6, and having a great year, and he gets hurt. And Matt Ryan steps in as was a freshman or an underclassman, and they lost a couple of games with Paul Peterson out. He got healthy again. They came back in, and then they won their bowl game that year, and it ended up being a good year for Boston College. But he's got that going for him. He was playing ahead of Matt Ryan. This guy knows his stuff. He's a football player and a football coach through and through. And I think Trailblazer fans are going to be really excited and really pleased with the product that they see. I mean, Snow College put up points like crazy. So it's a little different from junior college and NCAA Division II, But the schemes, the play, I mean, you're going out, you're playing football, you've got the talent, we'll have talent offensively, and it'll be fun to see what he rolls out.
No doubt about it. I mean, especially, I think this is a really critical season on many different levels. Obviously, if you're familiar with Dixie State and the program and the school, you know what's coming 16 months from now as you're making that leap to Division I. And as we talk about the future going into this next season, I think, at least in my opinion, it's going to be critical because over the last couple of seasons, this program has been on an upward trajectory, and that can only continue, hopefully, this season under Paul Peterson and then launch into Division I coming July of 2020. That's not only going to help with recruiting, but it's going to help with scheduling, all that kind of stuff. If you're trending upward, and certainly I feel like they will do under Paul Peterson's coaching and his coaching staff, that's going to be one of the main keys for me going into the next season is to see where this team can go going into that Division I leap. You talk about some of the future games. Let's jump into that a little bit right now. A few of the games that have already been announced. I don't know if we've really ever touched on this, so maybe
we touched briefly on I think the big three right after the announcement. There's been another one and there are some of them that are still in the works, and even some of them, I think ink has dried on contracts that we're still waiting for official announcements to be made from some of those Division I schools, and so we won't talk about those today. But and the 2020 schedule is close. They're just tidying up a few more things, and I would imagine that before too long here, we'll be announcing the 2020 schedule and first season of Division I, and we'll be able to really talk about that. But like we mentioned, SUU, Weber State, NAU, Northern Arizona, that series was announced during the Division I announcement. So you heard all about that. The exciting part about that is, you're playing in-state schools in SUU and Weber State. Your first game as a Division I school, just 45 minutes up the road in Cedar City, you're playing at SUU. We talked about those ones. There is another big one that I can't believe we haven't noted. We haven't mentioned this on the show yet. That's huge oversight on our part, and it's still 3 years out. I think maybe that's why maybe we haven't noticed it or not noticed it, but mentioned it quite yet. And the schools, I don't think we're even ready to announce. There was a blogger that writes for an FBS scheduling blog, and he, through a public records request, got all these contracts, and he kind of boom, threw it out to the world, and that got the Salt Lake media going, asking BYU, saying, hey, what's going on up here? Kind of forced their hand. They announced, and then we followed with our follow-up announcement. November of 2022, Dixie State will be traveling up I-15 to play in LaVell Edwards Stadium at BYU. And you're going to see more games like this in the future too, but that's just one of those first dominoes to fall, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, if you're going to play, and it was kind of interesting to see the BYU football Twitter announced it, and we announced it as well, and you look at a lot of the replies kind of on BYU social media, and it was almost split 50-50. You were either on the side saying, oh, we're still stuck in the BYU's a junior college day, we're stuck in those days. Why are we playing Dixie? That should be, that kind of stuff. Or it was someone saying, well, BYU's going to play an FCS school every year anyway, so why not let Dixie come up and, keep the money that comes from that game in the state? And a lot of people, both BYU and Dixie State fans, were excited. I mean, you'll fill the stands up for an in-state game. Two schools have never played before, and it'll be exciting. And it's just another stamp, another indication of where this program is headed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, when you talk about, just a few years ago, if you'd have said Dixie State in 5 or 6 years is going to be going up and playing BYU, if you had told me that, I'd have called you a flat-out liar. But, like you mentioned, it's just one of those games where it is exciting. I mean, that's the best word that I can use to describe it, going up and playing a very prominent, kind of local college here in BYU. Obviously, the one of the, if not the biggest named state colleges in the state. And for Dixie to be able to go up and play a game like that and see maybe some of the players that they competed against in high school and that kind of thing, really is something that I think can create a buzz around this community and certainly throughout the state. I'm really looking forward to it, and obviously, like we mentioned, at SUU, Weber State, another couple of good in-state rivalries that I think, like you just mentioned, will create a buzz around this program, get the fans involved, and really kind of bring the community together as a whole, and maybe get some extra backing and support for this program that's really just garnishing right now in the fact that it's going to Division I in a few short months.
Certainly, and right now it's just the one game, November 12th, 2022, in LaVelle Edwards Stadium. If you want to look at it in one way, it's great that Dixie State can get a game in November at BYU rather than maybe the season opener. You're not going up and getting all your guys pummeled and hurt, and you can play that game late in the season, and who knows what their record will be at the time, and who knows, could be a competitive football game, and will be very fun. So this certainly, as we continue to make that transition from Division I to Division II, you see these games pop up. Like I said, more games will be announced, more games on the horizon. 2020 schedule is almost done. The 2019 schedule is done. All right, it's just the conference schedule. Same schedule as this last year, except the sites are switched. So instead of going to Pueblo and then week 1 and then having 3 home games in a row, you'll go to Pueblo. Will come here. September 5th will be that opening game this year, and then you'll have 3 games on the road. The non-conference, the bye week, which Dixie State chooses not to take that bye week. Instead of taking the bye week, they will bring in Simon Fraser, a member of the only NCAA school in Canada. And if that name's familiar, it's because Dixie State and Simon Fraser both competed in football in the GNAC. And those were some hard-fought, high-scoring games. And I think that series is about split right down the middle. So it'll be interesting to see. Dixie State's been playing in the RMAC the last 3 seasons. Simon Fraser still playing in the GNAC, so it'll be interesting to see maybe if styles changed at all. That'll be the bye week. It'll be at home on October 12th. So the Trailblazers will have 6 home games this year, 5 games on the road. 2019 schedule is set.
Can't wait. Going to be a good season.
We got to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to take a look ahead. We'll put a bow on the show with our look ahead at the weekend preview. Take a quick timeout. Come right back on Trailblazer Weekly.
Okay, we are inviting you to join us for Talking Point Live.
Coming to you, not necessarily live, but tape delayed on the Community Education Channel at 9:30, 12:30, and 4:30 daily, from what I understand. But you can also pick it up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/TalkingPointLive.
And respond to us, right?
Please,
on
let
Facebook.
us know, because it's important to understand not only how our conversation is going, but maybe how is it affecting you at home as well. All right, Eric Young,
Jennifer Kohler.
Talking Point Live. We'll see you.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. A big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. I need a one dance. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
Fast-paced family life in need of a slowdown?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Did you know all those green shapes on maps are parks and forests? It's true. Visit discovertheforest.org and plan to visit a park or forest near you, instead of just wondering what it would have been like.
While the word forest might make you think of distant lands from far, far away, please note parks and forests are closer than you think, which means things like beautiful scenery, fresh air, and family time are also closer than you think.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
The Dixie State Stretch Internet Portal and the RMAC Network is your home for all Trailblazer athletics live streaming. Don't miss a second of the action. You can watch DSU games home and away at portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. That's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State.
It's that time once again. It's time to put a bow on the show with our DSU Athletics weekend preview. Let's start with baseball. They have their RMAC home opener this weekend against Adams State. They'll have one game Friday and a doubleheader on Saturday, following with the fourth and final game of the season on Sunday.
And actually, those games played in Alamosa. RMAC opener. The first official game as a member of the RMAC. They played Colorado Mesa last week, but those were non-conference games, and the Trailblazers lost both of those games. I should have mentioned in the first segment, we didn't really do much of a weekend recap other than just our headlines. Softball team lost 3 out of 4 games to Colorado Mesa in Grand Junction. Colorado Mesa came here for baseball, non-conference, 2-game series, a doubleheader. Weather pushed it back, so they played a doubleheader on Sunday. Colorado Mesa won both of those games, but if you're a baseball team, you're saying, okay, nothing hurt, nothing lost, other than 2 losses to the overall record. Now we've flipped the script. It's RMAC play time. We go to Alamosa, and then maybe even have a little bit extra on Colorado Mesa in the scouting report because we played them a couple times. So when that, it's toward the end of the season that the baseball team plays Colorado Mesa in RMAC play, and maybe they're able to get a different result that weekend. So a couple of tough losses, but really no harm done because they weren't conference games. They'll start out in Alamosa this weekend at Adams State.
And nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, this Colorado Mesa baseball team is tremendous,
in the country right
as
now.
well as the softball team. I mean, Colorado Mesa is one of those competitors that's always good every single year. You can just chalk them up to be one of the better teams in the conference. Moving down to softball, they dropped 3 out of 4 games. Colorado Mesa in Grand Junction. They'll bounce back with a 4-game series at Colorado State. Pueblo, doubleheader Saturday, followed by a doubleheader Sunday. A good chance for the softball team to rebound from, a couple of bad losses. I don't know if they're called bad losses, but certainly losses that looking forward, you're going to wish you had those, but it's a good way to bounce back with a couple of games like CSU Pueblo this weekend.
Yeah, the softball team went to Grand Junction. It was a top 25 matchup. Dixie State was number 22. Colorado Mesa was number 17. Trailblazers won the first game of that series 6-0. And you thought, okay, this is actually a great thing because whether or not they lose the second game on Saturday, you can win both on Sunday, win the series. Colorado Mesa won the next 3 games, and a couple of them pretty handily. One was double-digit win in 5 innings, and they're a very, very good team. And you talked to Coach Simpkins about this series, and he said they hit pitches well, and we didn't. We missed some of the pitches that we needed to take advantage of, and they'll bounce back. They'll be all right. The great thing about being in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and we've been used to it in basketball, but not in these other sports, you get the conference tournament at the end of the season. So while Colorado Mesa, won the season series, taking 3 games out of 4 over the weekend, there's still a conference tournament at the end of the season. And like you said, they get to go to Pueblo this weekend and try to take 3 out of 4, or maybe even sweep the series and put that behind them. So that's softball as they head back to Colorado. Women's golf will head to California to take on at the Cal State San Marcos Classic, and one of their first events of the spring. And women's tennis will take a trip to Arizona. They're going to play 3 or 4 matches while they're down there. The first couple will be on Tuesday at Arizona Christian, NAIA school down in the Phoenix area, and then at Paradise Valley Community College they'll play as well. They just added the Paradise Valley match, but like I said, they're going to go down and play 4 or 5 matches in about a 3 or 4 day span. And they've been off for a couple of weeks. They're 4-1 right now. They had the big win over Colorado Mesa, the conference win a couple of weeks ago. So it's an opportunity for them to go down and to try to get a couple of wins in Arizona. And they won't be back into official conference play, if you want to go quote unquote, until April, when they go and they'll play MSU Denver and in Colorado, and they'll return to conference play. But there's only 4 schools for women's tennis in the RMAC. Dixie State's one of those schools, and so they feel like they're in a great spot this year to play. They will play in a conference tournament to play for a conference championship this year. So that's, women's golf on the road. We wish them the best of luck. Women's tennis heading to Arizona, and the rare home weekend off here in St. George. As an SID, a sports information director, or an assistant SID, or broadcast, you don't see that very often in college athletics. And now I think it rings in the official end of crossover season, meaning basketball season's over. We can all focus on, don't want to say that quite yet. We'll wait and see what happens on Selection Sunday. But for the most part, crossover season's over. We can focus on spring sports and golf, tennis, baseball, softball.
And I wish we could say go out and enjoy the nice weather over the weekend, but who knows what we're going to have with it, rain or cloudy or whatever it's going to be.
Rain all the time. Rain, go away. I used to get excited when it rained here because it didn't rain very often. I'd run out and dance around and have fun in the rain, and now I think I might have to go buy an umbrella for the first time in my life. Our time is gone. Another edition of Trailblazer Weekly is in the books. Remember, you can watch the show anytime on demand at youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. For Drayson Ball, I'm Keric Seegmiller. Thanks for making this part of your day. We'll see you not next week. We're taking next week off for spring break. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Go Trailblazers.